lot of us who have kind of ongoing, long-term chronic shoulder problems, a lot of times it's because the shoulder's not sitting in the right position. So when you think about your shoulder, you want to think about the glenohumeral joint, which is a ball and socket joint, okay, where your shoulder can rotate in all different directions. But then you also have your scapula, or the shoulder girdle, little triangular bone on your back, which is part of the shoulder apparatus. And typically if you have a long-term shoulder issue, a nagging pain, weakness, then typically it's more of an issue with the position that your shoulder blade and shoulder girdle is sitting in. So something that's really common, and I have this problem as well, is that your shoulder might be rounded forward and drop down some. So your scapula is sitting in a protracted, rounded forward position and a depressed position. And so simple movement that's going to get us retracted and elevated is going to help to allow your shoulder to sit in a better position. And in my experience, the simplest single thing to do to achieve that is hanging. So for my personal warm-up routine, before I go and train anything upper body, which is always arms, I'm going to do a bunch of hanging movements. Finding a bar that you can hang from where your feet are still on the ground. Otherwise, you're going to tire out your forearms. And what this position is going to do is it's going to stretch out and alleviate a lot of the muscles that are going to be pulling your shoulder into a depressed and rounded forward position, that being your pec major, your pec minor, your lats. So all of those muscles that are potentially sitting in a little bit of short, tightened position from kind of a rounded forward posture, if you're susceptible to this, doing a movement, simply hanging for 60 seconds or 10 breaths, where you count 10 deep, slow breaths, and then going into a set of shoulder circles like this, where I would do 10 of these as well. Boom, 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 boom. Just a little bit of dynamic mobility to get the joint loosening up, and then I would come back, and I'm gonna hang here again for another 60 seconds or 10 deep breaths, and I'm gonna repeat that for 3 rounds. And it's not gonna magically fix your shoulder problem, but if you have like an ongoing nagging shoulder injury, or you notice one shoulder is weaker than the other, or in certain movements you're asymmetrical, you probably have some type of resting position postural imbalance that you're not gonna magically fix by doing this. But when you go to train, if you take the time to alleviate some of that tension so that you can get your shoulder girdle or your shoulder, the ball and socket joint sitting in a better starting position by loosening up some of the muscles that impact the scapula or the shoulder girdle, that's gonna help you to move through a fuller range of motion. So after doing a few rounds of the hanging and dynamic shoulder mobility, ideally, my shoulder's not gonna be sitting as much in this position, and I'm gonna be alleviated some of the tension in my pecs, my lats, and my scapula is gonna be sitting in a more natural position. Then when I go to do upper body exercises, I'm gonna be better equipped to execute the movement properly. And this isn't gonna magically fix all your shoulder problems, but it's 100% something that I recommend working in to your pre-workout mobility routine so that you can prime your body to reduce the amount of shoulder pain and your risk of injury, and ultimately access a better range of motion so that you can have a more productive workout. The first thing to distinguish is between an acute shoulder injury versus a chronic long-term issue. So if you have an acute injury, like a dislocation, a torn labrum, something that happened in one instance, then you need to seek proper medical advice and get some medical imaging done and see a physiotherapist and get on a rehab program.